What's going on? Feeling a little better today. Still a little hit, but I had this kind of like thought going on. I had this conversation with my buddy, and it was like made this like kind of like realization. It's like, all right, like he asked me, he's like, what is church? And it's like church is basically where people gather in the name of the God of the Bible, Jesus. So it's not. It's like if you think of a church, man. I see all these abandoned churches around, with their obelisk steeple on top of them, right? Too, as well. See them abandoned, and it's like without any people in there, that building that's not a church. It's just a building. It's a dead building. It's a bones. It's a tomb, actually. You know what I'm saying? It's So people have this misconception that church is a building in some pretty place where there's people dressed a certain way, acting a certain way, speaking and maneuvering in a certain, ritualistic, ceremonial fashion. When in all actuality, no, not really. A living church would just be people and wherever they were meeting at and discussing it. It would be like, listen, it'd be out there on the corner, it'd be at the park, man, it'd be in the trees, it'd be over there in the field, man, it'd be in the parking lot, it'd be down at the bus stop, man, it'd be moving, living, alive, you know what I'm saying, active. That's the church. It's that force that is compelling people to speak to each other pertaining to that subject, you know what I mean? Our Father who art in heaven, that's basically church there. So I realized the church, where we went wrong is assuming that it's got to be some static or something, man, that's fixed, some fixed object or place, when it's not at all. I call that Churchianity. I feel that's a form of like mind control and deception. It's like don't pay attention to the other hand type situation. The real church, personally, I believe it should be more like an intelligence agency. And what I mean by that is like this. When we talk to one another, it's like where's the gaps in your understanding about what pertaining to the subject, any information, any books, any words, definitions, content or context, or just different information, because it's like the saying is true, two minds are better than one, so three's better than two. The more people you got working together, kind of like a think tank, or anyway, but you find where the people's gaps in awareness or understanding is, and then you place them with the right people to fill them in, you know what I mean? And then then you send them over here to these other people after they get their knowledge there, and then come back around full circle, read it all again, you know what I'm saying? So you can get new, greater revelation, that's the way it works. I've noticed it always works when I got at least a few other people studying with me at the same time. It always helps, because later it opens the door for conversation. It also opens the door for review, because if you can run what you remember back by what they remember. Because a lot of this, think about it, the term study to show thyself approved comes from the Jews that would learn how to write the first 5 books of the Bible word for word for word for word from memory. None of us people out here put that much dedication into it this day to the whole Bible, but we should have almost similar to that. At least everyone should have their particular sections where they just know it word for word from memory. You've dedicated it to memory, which it takes a lot of work. Not a lot of people got a lot of time. I understand that. So look, that's why they depend on us to gather, get the information together, present it, or regurgitate it to them in in a processable way, you know, so they can process it. A person who isn't as learned, isn't as studied, didn't put as much time into it, because there's some things you're going to say to them, it's going to go right over their head, unless you're really skilled at taking big things and shrinking them, or taking a small piece of something and then making it really big. But at the same time, still allow the whole thing there. Don't try to keep people focused on one piece of it, but don't listen to none of this stuff here. I mean, that's not what I'm into. I'm like, let's study the whole Bible. Let's study actually the books mentioned in the Bible that aren't in our Bible. I want to see this stuff. And here is, eyes go far. Look, study anything that's world history, because if you got that, you know, if you got the Bible foundation, it's a good way. You can hear of all these other everything else, dude, and it only helps you understand what you know to be true. Anything that is true, it's like that. It doesn't matter what you hear. You'll take it into consideration, but you'll know in your heart, you know, in those balance, the scales, the weights of your heart, whatever. Look, you'll know if it's true or not, or if you can honestly say, do I know? It's sometimes, listen, to tell the truth is just say, I don't know yet. I got to do more study. I don't know. I can't say. I can't put my word behind that. So I'm just going to say, I don't know yet. But look, maybe this person I've studied, maybe they know. You know, you just point out, if you don't know, point out maybe if you know a direction where maybe you think it would be lead to something for someone else. Because we're not studying all this stuff. I mean, at least people like myself, I don't study it just for myself. I really study it so I can explain it to other people. I mean, that's really the whole thing behind it. It's just the way I am. It's the way I was born. It's the way, I guess, you know, is what you're meant to be like. I just remember things, you know. I can remember stuff, and it's like, you know, and I like to hear about things. I like to know about history. I like to hear about what people's testimony, what they said happened, either whether it was a story, fictional, made up, fantasy, or if it was a true, actual account, or it's something in the middle where it's half truth, half blown out of proportion, because over the time they repeated it, and it got a little different and more grand and more entertaining, you know, because it was more entertaining when it was told verbally back in the day, before we had all this technology and language ability. But that's one of the reasons why the Bible's good, because, you know, at least them first 5 books, it started on the principle of remember every word, word for word, from the beginning. Know it in your mind, in your heart. And then the same people who went on into the future had that same kind of mindset to preserve every word. I mean, and that's what the word says itself. It says it will be preserved. You know what I'm saying? And they'll find it or whatever. Or seal up the scroll, Daniel. Enoch, this isn't for this generation. This is for a remote generation, the generation of the tribulation. So my definition of church is people. It's an act. It's